Hello, my fellow battle sisters. I am Saint Gwen. Today, we are going to talk about a specific xenos race, the Eldar. The Eldar, or Eldar, as commonly used, are an ancient and highly advanced species of humanoid xenos, whose vast empire once extended the width and breadth of the entire galaxy. In this time, the Eldar Empire was without equal in the galaxy, spreading across both real space and the webway. They counted themselves masters of the stars, and every Eldar was born a potential psyker, their abilities often used to create and power their magical technology. And death was no barrier, for when the Eldar spirits eventually left their mortal bodies, they dissolved peacefully back into the immaterium to be reborn again in a new form. For the warp did not thirst for Eldar souls then as it does today. But then, 10 million ago, the Eldar's overwhelming pride and their fall into immoral and hedonistic practice led to a cataclysmic event that all but eradicated their kind and resulted in the birth of the chaos god Slaanesh, or known as She Who Thirsts, to the Eldar. Despite their boundless power, the heart of their civilization was torn out by this catastrophe of their own making, forcing many of the surviving Eldar to pursue different strategies of survival to protect their souls from being consumed by She Who Thirsts. These strategies have shaped the nature of their surviving Eldar cultures. In the 41st millennium, there are 5 major subcultures, or kindreds, of the Eldar species. The Asuryani, or Craftworld Eldar, the Drukhari, the Harlequins, my favorite, the Exodites, or the Ynnari. Now we'll look into each one in a little bit of a more depth look. The Asuryani fled the original homeworlds of the Eldar Empire in great continent-sized starships called craft worlds. These craft worlds are now scattered across the galaxy, only connect to one another by labyrinth corridors in the webway. The Asuryani seek to protect themselves from the hunger of She Who Thirsts through the use of a soul-capturing psychocrystalline technology known as spirit stones, and a rigid code of behavior called the Asuryani Path. The worlds that they fled are now called Crone Worlds, something that I covered in my Worlds of Warhammer video. The Drukhari are the descendants of those Eldar who originally settled within the webway, particularly the ancient city of Komarok. The Drukhari protect themselves from the hunger of Slaanesh by following the Asari path called the Path of Damnation. These particular people revel in the physical and emotional pain of others, for feeding upon their psychic residue of suffering is the only way they can stave off the slow consumption by She Who Thirsts of their own souls. Many of these were part of the pleasure cults and the extremists that brought upon She Who Thirsts, and then did not change their ways. They decided, well, why us? Why do we have to change? We're important. So annoying. The Harlequins are the servants of the Eldar laughing god Sagorak, who fled into the webway at the time of the fall of the Eldar, and were protected from the thirst of Slaanesh by their god's power. I will go into the Eldar by themselves. I will go into all of these by themselves. But the Eldar, the Harlequins, are my favorite. The Exodites are those Eldar who fled the ancient homeworlds before the fall and chose to settle on verdant, unsettled planets known as Maiden Worlds. The Exodites are protected from the soul thirst of Slanesh by unifying their souls upon death with the world spirits of their home planets, and from the darker impulses of the Eldarai's psyche by pursuing lifestyles marked by more hardship and less labor-saving technology than their brethren. The Yarni, also called Reborn, are a religious sect of Eldarai from all of the other factions who serve the partially awakened Eldarai god of the dead, Yenid, led by Yenid's high priestess and chosen prophet, Urain, the daughter of Shades. The Urain came into existence just before the birth of the Great Rift and the start of the era Indomitus. Now let's look into the history of the Eldar. The ancient history of the Eldar stretches back over millennia to a time when they dominated the stars completely. Yet, for all their splendor and might, the Eldarai brought a terrible curse upon themselves that sundered their empire forever, leaving the ravaged fragments of their race teetering on the brink of annihilation. The starfaring history of the Eldarai is a long and encompasses glories and sorrows alike. When the Eldarai Empire was at its height, their homeworlds were paradises. The powers godlike and their armies unsurpassable. As the Terran centuries slid past, their status as lords of the galaxies bred an arrogance that led to a cataclysm. A portion of their race survived that dark time by fleeing from disaster upon great vessels known as craft worlds. Others settled verdant planets far from the heart of the Empire, and still more hid in the private realms of their own making. Yet there was no real escape from what was to come. Apparent perfection, like that of the ancient Eldarai, is all too often blighted by pride. Over 1 million Terran years ago, the Eldarai alone ruled the stars as the undisputed masters of their own destiny. Such a position was their right, they thought, and their preeminence was beyond doubt. At their peak, nothing was beyond the Eldarai's reach, and nothing was forbidden. The ancient race continued their glorious existence unaware or unwilling to acknowledge the dark fate that awaited them. They plied the stars at will, experiencing the wonders of the galaxy and immersing themselves completely in the endless sensations that it offered them. Such was the technological mastery of the Eldarai that worlds were created specifically for their pleasure, and stars lived or died at their whim. On hundreds of idyllic planets seated across the stars, the Eldarai pursued their inclinations as they willed, indulging every dream and investigating every curiosity. They mastered the labyrinth dimension of the webway, expanded their realms into the furthest corners of reality, and learned much about the universe that has since been forgotten. Their spirits eventually left their mortal bodies. At death, they dissolved peacefully back into the Imperium to be reborn again, for the warp did not yield any danger for the Eldarai souls that it has since their fall. There were, of course, many wars. Even when the galaxy was young, there was an upstart species seeking to gouge out petty empires in their own, and the Eldarai waged wars against the sprawling Necron dynasties that ravaged dozens of star systems and cost trillions of lives. Most of these conflicts, though, were short-lived, that the ease of their victory left the Eldarai ever more secure of their ascendancy. Even the greatest of all their wars, the conflict over 60 million Terran years ago that first forged their species in alliance with the legendary beings called the Old Ones, dimly remembered in the mythic cycles of the craft worlds as the war in heaven, did not humble them. In their hearts, the Eldarai reigned supreme, and no other power could end their dominance. When you place yourself on a pedestal, the higher the pedestal, the harder the fall, and the Eldar fell far. The catalyst that brought about the Eldari's race fall came from the very depths of their collective psyche. The innate need to feel their passions and indulge in every extreme. Their people had long outgrown the need for physical labor or manual agriculture due to the highly advanced and automated nature of their technology. Fueled by inexhaustible curiosity, many gave way to their hedonistic impulses. Exotic cults, pleasure cults, sprang up across the Eldar domains that eclipsed the noble pursuit of old, each dedicated to esoteric knowledge and sensual excess. The core of the Eldar race began to look inwards, inexorably seeking new ways to explore the full range of emotion and sensation. Such behavior was perilously decadent and, in the end, corrosive to the soul of the race. The pursuit of excess gradually became a blight upon the whole society. The acts of the pleasure cults began to transcend those of idle curiosity to even extreme addiction. Eldar from every corner of the empire wallowed in their most unnatural impulses in the pursuit of debauchery. As the cults gained a tighter hold over the society, the Eldar became increasingly divided. Those who saw the foulness that corrupted their people for what it was became known as Exodites, and they departed to found colony worlds on the fringes of the Eldar Empire. As the civilization slid further into anarchy, others repented of their ways and fled into deep space aboard world ships called craft worlds. Most Eldar, however, continued to glut themselves on the pursuit of the depraved. The sorrow of those who mourn the loss of innocence eventually turned to bitterness and spite. In time, brother fought brother, and sadistic killers stalked the shadows in search of victims for their vile lusts. No life was spared in the pursuit of pleasure, both murderous and perverse. A sickness of vice overtook the Eldar race, and blood flowed through the streets amidst the bestial roar of the crowd. As the moral corruption of the Eldar race tightened its stranglehold, echoes of ecstasy and agony began to ripple through time and space. In the parallel dimension of the immaterium, the psychic reflections of those intense experiences began to coalesce, for the shifting tides of immaterium can take form around intense emotion. Slowly, silently, a nascent god of excess grew strong in the depths of the warp. Worlds burned as the Eldar slew and laughed and feasted upon the corpses of the dead. Slowly, the great enemy stirred towards wakefulness. Too late, the Eldar realized that they had created a god in their own hideous image, a god grown impotent by suckling upon the dark fodder of the Eldar soul. When Slaanesh finally burst into divine consciousness, there was not one Eldar alive who did not feel its claws in their soul. With a howl of raw power, Slaanesh roared into supernatural life. A psychic impulsion tore at the universe. Countless billions of Eldar screamed aloud and fell dead. From the moment that Slaanesh burst into being, the soul of every Eldar was forfeit upon the death of the body. An unprotected Eldar soul would be dragged into the warp and thence to an eternity of hideous torment within the psychic gullet of she who thirsts. Even those who had foreseen the catastrophe and fled upon the craft worlds were overwhelmed, with only those furthest from the devastation surviving. The remote Exodite maiden worlds remained largely untouched, but within the space of a single moment, the Eldar had become a doomed people. Their nemesis was born and would hunt them for the rest of eternity. At its dire awakening, the Chaos God developed a taste for the souls of the Eldar, where before, when one of the race died, they would pass peacefully into the warp in order to be reborn. Now they faced eternal torment, for Slaanesh has a perverse and twisted appetite that can never be sated. To prevent their souls from being devoured by Slaanesh, they created what is called a spirit stone. An Asuran spirit stone, also known as a waystone, is a small, seemingly precious gem carried in a variety of different aesthetically pleasing settings on a craft-world Eldarai's chest, used to save their souls from consumption after death within the Imperium by Slaanesh. Every Asuran of the craft worlds wears a shining gem or a polished stone upon their breast. The psycho-receptive waystone is attuned solely to the mind of its owner. At the moment of the Asuran's death, the stone acts like a psychic trap, absorbing their psychic self, their soul, and preventing it from entering the warp and being consumed by she who thirsts. The waystone can then be brought back to the Asuran's own craft world and embedded into the Wrathbone core, where it will grow into a larger spirit stone. Now that we know the history of the Eldar, let's look into the mythology and religion of the Eldar. The Eldar cling tenaciously to their folklore and traditions. The characters and events of ancient legend are commonly discussed and comparisons drawn between mythic events and those of the present day. The principal characters of the Eldar mythic cycles are the gods, their mortal descents, and the Eldar, and the monstrous adversities they fought. They have a pantheon of their higher gods and other gods who lead during times. Their chief and oldest of all gods is Asuran, the Phoenix King and leader of their pantheon. His first brother is Kale Mensha Cain, the Bloody Hand God. Cain is the master of both war and murder, and he symbolizes wanton destruction and martial prowess. The third of the gods is Val, the crippled smith god who is often depicted chained to his own anvil. Now there is a trinity of goddesses to the Eldar. Isha is the goddess of the harvest, from whom the Eldar race is descended. The youngest goddess is Lilith, the maiden, mistress of dreams and fortune, whilst the third of the trinity of the Eldar goddesses is the Morai Heg, the crone, an ancient and withered creature who holds the fates of mortals inside a rune pouch made of skin. Korag, the laughing god, was a consummate trickster and the greatest artist amongst the Eldar gods. This is also who the Harlequins follow. At the moment of its birth, Slaanesh decimated the Eldar pantheon and stole the gods' power, with only 2 of their numbers surviving the fall of the Eldar. The laughing god, Korak, escaped through guile, while Kali Menesh Cain, the strongest and most warlike of the Eldar and deities, endured through might. However, a new god, Yanid, the Eldar god of death, who is not part of the old myth cycles, was long said to be forming from the souls of the Eldar dead within the infinity circuits of the craft worlds. Yurai's awakening was dramatically accelerated during the Battle of Port Nemesis in 999 M41 by a ritual undertaken by the Farseer Eldar Uthran. There are other Eldar gods, Kurnus, Gay, Hoek, Lilith, the Cosmic Serpent, Cobra God, Scorpion God, and Serpent God. These are not the primary gods, but minor gods who aided the pantheon. This concludes the video on the Eldar, and there is so much that I didn't go over, and I haven't the time to do it all in one video. I will go into depth of the different factions of Eldar, and I have a few stories that have come across my desk to share with you. But I am St. Gwen, your sister of battle. If you like the video, please give it a like, subscribe for future videos, and comment down below. Tell me what you think. I hope you have a blessed day.